a sad gift beyond despair asking about human nature, an essay for readers who feel lacking in knowledge and cultivation. Sometimes in life, we find ourselves hitting walls or feeling that the world is too difficult and complex to understand. At these moments, books can become extraordinary tools that open our eyes to new perspectives and deepen our understanding of the world. Today, I want to introduce a book by Hungarian author Imre Kertész titled Fatelessness, Sorstalanság, which is a story that, at first glance, may seem difficult and heavy, but in fact is a precious yet sorrowful gift that prompts deep reflection on the most universal aspects of human life and fate. Reading this book can sometimes feel uncomfortable, as we must confront truths that are hard to bear. But within this discomfort lies the opportunity to gain valuable insights into the true meaning of life and the essence of human existence. There's no need to worry about lacking knowledge or cultivation. This book is a story that we can fully understand through our hearts and senses. 1. Fatelessness. A story of a young man's strange survival. Fatelessness recounts the experiences of Georgi Kovs, a Hungarian Jewish boy during World War II, as he survives internment camps like Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. Though rooted in the historically horrific tragedy of the Holocaust, this book unfolds in a completely different narrative style from the typical tragic or sentimental accounts of survival. A boring beginning and sudden disruption. The story begins in Budapest, Hungary, when Georgi is 15 years old. Like other boys his age, he plays with friends, attends school, and lives a mundane life. But one day, his father is taken away to a forced labor camp simply because he is Jewish. Soon after, Georgi himself is loaded onto a train and sent somewhere unknown. To Georgi, this entire process is portrayed with a calm and indifferent tone, almost like an inevitable fate. Readers are struck by the first shock. This immense tragedy is depicted as a routine occurrence. The bizarre normalcy and adaptation within tragedy. Georgi arrives at the infamous death camp, Auschwitz. There, he endures every conceivable form of human suffering and humiliation. He is separated from his family, shaves his head, stripped of his clothes, renamed with a number, and forced to work while starving. Yet, Kertész portrays all these horrific events with Georgi's detached, dry perspective. Georgi chews on twigs to stave off hunger, uses cunning to secure better rations, sleeps beside the corpse of a friend who died scratching a boil on his body, and witnesses the brutality of guards and the selfishness of fellow prisoners. In this extreme environment, Georgi adapts quickly to survive at all costs. He tries to find some kind of order and positive aspects in the camp. For example, he considers it lucky to survive to the hospital or feels happy with a bowl of broth. Such descriptions confuse and unsettle readers, prompting them to wonder, how can someone speak of happiness in such a place? The end of a long journey and a new beginning. As Georgi is moved from Auschwitz to Buchenwald and then to Czechoslovakia, he grows weaker, and death shadows him increasingly. But miraculously, the war ends, and the camps are liberated. Georgi survives and returns home, but his life can never be the same. The world that returns and a sense of disconnection. Though Georgi returns to his hometown, people cannot understand his experiences. Instead, they ask, how terrible was it? Or advise him to forget the horror and live normally. They fail to grasp Georgi's strange happiness or his altered attitude toward life. For Georgi, his internment camp experiences are not a past to erase but a core part of his identity. The outside world now feels strange and hypocritical to him. In the final lines of the novel, Georgi asks a fundamental question in the camp: I found a kind of happiness. I could find it even in that hell. Why? Can't I find happiness in this ordinary world? This question is one of the book's central messages, demanding deep reflection from readers. 2. Imre Kertész's unique narrative style. Why do we feel uncomfortable? Imre Kertész, himself a Holocaust survivor, brings a vivid sense of reality to his story. But it is precisely this refusal to present the experience in a conventional way that makes Fatelessness so unique. Emotionally detached first-person perspective, the author narrates the story through Georgi's eyes. The world as seen by a 15-year-old boy is described purely as an object of observation, devoid of emotional judgment or moral condemnation. Like a camera recording events, Georgie observes his suffering and the cruelty around him with an expressionless face. Phrases like "I was in the internment camp," "I was hit," and "I was hungry" are repeated. This narrative style forces readers to confront the situation with cold clarity rather than emotional immersion. Absence of emotion, or controlled emotion. Georgie rarely weeps or shows anger. Even when his parents are being led to death or when his friends perish, his inner emotions are depicted with extreme restraint. This lack of emotion unsettles readers, as we often expect to empathize with a protagonist's sorrow and cry along with them in tragic stories. However, Cortez deliberately avoids this to encourage rational reflection over emotional appeal. The absurdity of normalcy. The most shocking part is that Georgie accepts the internment camp's abnormal conditions as normal, even finding positive aspects and moments of happiness within them. When his hunger is briefly satisfied, when he avoids a beating, or when he receives better treatment than others, he feels happy. This vividly illustrates the human instinct to adapt and survive even in extreme conditions, while chillingly revealing how such systems distort human minds. Paradox and irony. Cortez skillfully employs paradox and irony. The protagonist discovers the meaning of life in a death camp, speaks of happiness in the most brutal environment, and after liberation, struggles to adapt to a free world. These contradictions continually question readers, shaking their existing notions and guiding them to view the tragedy of human existence and history from a new perspective. This unique narrative style transforms Fatelessness from a simple Holocaust survivor story into a profound philosophical exploration of human conditions. While initially unfamiliar or unsettling, this discomfort allows us to more deeply understand ourselves and the world. 3. Lessons from Fatelessness of Destiny, Humanity, and the Meaning of Life. While rooted in the specific historical context of the Holocaust, Fatelessness contains universal messages that resonate across time and culture. Let's explore why this book is important, even for readers who may feel they lack knowledge or cultivation. Evil in the ordinary. Evil doesn't always arrive in extraordinary forms. We often imagine evil as something extreme and dramatic, like villains in movies. However, Cortez shows how the tragedy of the internment camps arose from ordinary systems. The guards simply did their jobs, and the people loading Georgie onto the train merely followed orders. This book chillingly exposes how ordinary people, without guilt, can become tools of a cruel system, leading to unimaginable tragedy. Message for us. It reminds us to examine small injustices, discrimination, or unfairness in our daily lives. Assuming that won't happen to me or dismissing these as just the way things are can quietly make us accomplices to hidden evil. The meaning of fatelessness. How much can we control our destiny? The book's original title, Sorstelansag, translates to fatelessness or being unfated. Georgie is dragged away without choice, survives the brink of death, or returns home not by his will, but by chance and external forces. His life seems a continuous series of fatelessness, dictated solely by the environment and systems around him. Message for us. While we believe in shaping our own lives and destinies, this story reveals our vulnerability in the face of historical currents and unpredictable events. Yet, the fact that Georgie continues to live and exist in his own way within this helplessness paradoxically highlights human resilience. Rather than an active message of "I have to create my own fate," it quietly reflects on the human essence of enduring any fate and continuing to live within it. Human adaptability and the paradox of choice. Does happiness exist everywhere? To survive in the hellish environment of the internment camps, Georgie abandons his humanity and adapts. He even finds happiness and positive aspects within it. This illustrates how humans strive desperately to survive in extreme conditions. Yet it also questions whether surrendering humanity to survive is truly a choice or just an inevitable survival instinct. Message for us. We all face hardships and pain. From Georgie's determination to survive at all costs, we learn a stubborn will to life. However, we are also reminded of the importance of preserving our humanity and the moral boundaries of adaptation. It encourages us to reflect on the choices that shape our lives today. Trauma and memory. How do injuries become part of life? When Georgie returns home after liberation, people urge him to forget his terrible memories. But for Georgie, the internment camp experiences are inerasable, forming the core of his existence. His memories are not just painful pasts but ways to understand the world and define himself. Message for us: we all experience varying degrees of wounds and trauma in life. This book invites us to see these not as things to simply forget but as significant parts of shaping our lives and identities. It offers insights into how we understand and remember our past and how those memories influence our future. Understanding the universal condition of humanity, we are all connected. Although Fatelessness focuses on the Holocaust, its themes are universal. What is humanity? What is life? What is the nature of pain and happiness? Georgie's feelings of alienation, loneliness, and quest for meaning may differ in context but are emotions many of us have felt at some point. Message for us: this book nurtures our ability to empathize with others' pain. It shows how a story from a completely different background can lead to a deeper understanding of our own lives. True knowledge and cultivation are not about possessing information but about understanding and respecting others' lives and reflecting on our own. Fatelessness plants the seeds of this ability in our hearts. Conclusion: Fatelessness, a courageous question for our lives. Imre Kertész's Fatelessness is certainly not an easy book to read. It unsettles our hearts, shakes our common sense, and compels us to confront truths we might want to avoid. Yet, it is precisely within this discomfort that true growth lies. This book poses fundamental questions: what is happiness? Why do I live? Is my life a personal destiny or merely a fragment swept along by a larger current? True knowledge and cultivation are not derived solely from lofty language or complex theories. Rather, they emerge from the contemplation of ordinary lives and the inherent struggles of humanity. It is in these reflections that we find genuine wisdom and cultivation. Fatelessness transcends a specific slice of history to speak to the universal destiny of all humans and the meaning of life within it. Through this book, we learn from the courageous attitude of a young boy who affirmed life in the midst of suffering and, in turn, can view our own lives with broader and deeper perspectives. I sincerely hope this book becomes a steadfast companion on your journey of self-discovery, igniting small sparks of thought, questions, and the pursuit of answers.